Let's go ahead and compare the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro. Both of these are very, very good devices, even if you use them side by side, but there are going to be a few differences. Now, these devices are separated by 4 years of launch date. So obviously the iPhone 15 Pro is going to be better in pretty much every single way. But to be fair, the iPhone 11 Pro can still hold its own when even compared to newer devices. So the first thing we notice is the 15 Pro has 5G and the 11 Pro has 4G LTE. So obviously one's going to be faster, but in real life usage you won't really notice. Video and audio streaming and all that stuff is not going to be really affected by either of these technologies. The 15 Pro was released in 2023, and the iPhone 11 was released in 2019. So we're kind of getting at the end of the road. I think the iPhone 11 Pro has one more year of updates, while the 15 Pro is obviously brand new and future-proof, so you're gonna have a lot more years of practical use with the 15 Pro. They're both similar in size. The iPhone 15 Pro is just a little bit bigger in some regards, but also thinner and lighter in some other regards. But they're generally 5.7 inches by 2.8 inches by 33 inches thick. So very similar in size. That's one thing that the devices haven't really changed. Weight-wise, they're separated by only 1 gram, or the iPhone 15 is at 6.6 ounces versus 6.63 ounces on the 11 Pro. So not a big difference really in weight-wise. As for build quality, both of these are really great. Glass front, glass back, but the iPhone 15 Pro has a titanium frame versus the stainless steel frame on the iPhone 11 Pro. As for the SIM card technology, now that's where we find a big difference. The iPhone 15 Pro is an eSIM only device, while the iPhone 11 Pro has eSIM and nano SIM technology. So this is one region where the iPhone 11 Pro really stands out. You could still use a physical SIM card, pop it in and out, and switch devices or SIM cards with the iPhone 11 Pro. The 15 Pro eSIM only technology is kind of a drawback. There's no real benefit in having only eSIM. So this is one thing that the iPhone 11 Pro definitely has an advantage over the 15. As for dust and water resistance, both of these have IP68 dust and water resistance, but the 15 Pro has a little bit better at 6 meters for 30 minutes, while the 11 Pro is 4 meters for 30 minutes. Now let's talk about the display. You'll see some differences here as well. The iPhone 15 Pro has a beautiful 120 hertz refresh rate with 2000 nits of brightness, while the 11 Pro has a 60 hertz refresh rate. So basically the older screen, slower screen technology, and only 1200 nits of peak brightness. Both of these screens and refresh rates are nice, except that once you see the iPhone 15 Pro in action, it's going to be hard to go back. It's kind of like going, let's say if you're traveling and you are usually in coach and you sit one time in first class, it's going to be very hard to go back and enjoy yourself in coach. But regardless, you're still going to get to the same location. And with these phones, they're both nice, but it's hard to go back to a slower standard refresh rate. Now for the displays of these devices, the iPhone 15 Pro has a 6.1 inch display, while the iPhone 11 has a 5-inch display. So the iPhone 15 Pro has a smaller screen real estate in general, even though the physical size of the phone isn't that much, but you get more screen size. You pretty much get 6% more screen on the 15 Pro than the 11 Pro. 88% screen to body ratio on the 15 Pro, while you get 82% screen to body ratio on the 11 Pro. So obviously the 15 Pro is just rocking more screen real estate, just better in general. As for resolution, both of these are pretty much the same. 15 Pro is at 461 ppi versus 458 ppi on the 11 Pro. Another difference is for the screen, the 15 Pro has an always on display, which also has standby mode as well, with the always on display, and you don't have to touch the screen to enable that. As for software, the iPhone 15 Pro has iOS 17 with around 5 to 6 years of updates, so it's going to iOS 22 probably, while the 11 Pro launched with iOS 13, and it's currently on iOS 17, so I suspect one more year of updates, and that's about it. Chipsets, 15 Pro has the A17, the Apple A17 Pro chip. The iPhone 11 Pro has an A13 Bionic. Both of these are flagships at the time of their release, but the iPhone 11 Pro has a older flagship chip, which it will show its age, and it's probably showing its age now. But for everyday use, it's still very, very good. As for storage, the iPhone 15 Pro has 128 gigs, while the 11 has 64 gigs. So basically, the 15 Pro has double the storage. As for RAM, the 15 Pro has 8 gigs of RAM, which is double the 4 gigs of RAM on the iPhone 11 Pro. You won't really notice this unless you're a power user using your phone with a lot of apps. For the camera specs, both of these phones have 3 cameras on the back. 15 has the 48 megapixel, 12 megapixel telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultra wide. The 11 Pro has all 3 cameras are 12 megapixels. The regular one, the telephoto, and the ultra wide. Honestly, in my personal opinion, both of these cameras, all 3 of these cameras are very, very good. It's going to be hard to tell a difference unless you are really into photography and looking for perfection. Regardless, both of these shoot in 4K, and the iPhone 15 Pro also has spatial video, which basically means if you shoot spatial videos, you could see these on the Apple Vision Pro. As for the selfie camera, both of these are pretty much the same. 12 megapixel shooters shooting at 4K. And neither of these obviously have the headphone jack. For Bluetooth, 15 Pro has 5.3, while you get 5.0 on the 11 Pro. And for the connection port, there is a big difference. The 15 Pro has switched over to USB Type-C, while the iPhone 11 Pro has Lightning. If you're just talking about charging, there's not much difference, except now you get to use the USB cable on the 15 Pro to charge pretty much all your devices. But if you have a lot of other Lightning devices, then you probably still feel comfortable using the iPhone 11 Pro. For security and unlocking, both of these devices utilize Face ID, and it's obviously going to be a little bit faster on the 15 Pro. Both of these rock the ultra wideband chips, except you get an upgraded one on the 15 Pro, and you also get emergency SOS. And one thing I almost left out was for the display, the iPhone 15 Pro has instead of the notch on the 11 Pro, it has the dynamic island, which just shows a few little extra things here and there, but it's not a giant improvement. It doesn't serve too many updated practical uses over the iPhone 11 Pro, but that's pretty much the biggest way that you could tell the difference between both of these devices are the dynamic island and the notch at the top of the 11 Pro. For battery, both of these are similar size. 15 Pro has a 3274 milliamp, while the iPhone 11 Pro has a 3046 milliamps. Both of these will get you through the day, but obviously an older device like the iPhone 11 Pro is not going to have perfect battery life, especially if it's been used a lot. Both of these charge 50% in 30 minutes, and they both have wireless charging, but you do get MagSafe on the 15 Pro, and also you get reverse wired charging, so you could charge up AirPods or an Apple Watch, among other things. Last thing is going to be the price. The iPhone 11 Pro starts off at $1,000, while the iPhone 11 Pro also started at $1,000, but obviously the prices have gone way down, and you can get that device for cheap, for less than $400. So you can get a really good deal and still get pretty good performance on the iPhone 11 Pro compared to the 15 Pro. So you can't really go wrong with either of these devices, but obviously the biggest changes in the iPhone 15 Pro is going to be the dynamic island. It's going to be the USB Type-C charging port, and you got little things here and there, but the iPhone 11 Pro is still a modern device, and it holds up pretty well. If you ask anybody and give it to anybody on the street, they will be happy with either of these devices. So that was my comparison of the Apple iPhone 15 Pro and the Apple iPhone 11 Pro.